Welcome to today's explainer. Have you ever found yourself in this incredibly frustrating situation? You know, you're studying English, and you know the grammar absolutely perfectly. I mean, you crush the written tests, you've got the vocabulary down, but then, the very second you step in front of a native speaker, your mind just goes completely blank. Your heart starts racing, and your mouth literally won't move. Well, stick with me because today we are going to fix exactly that.
Okay, let's dive into this. If you freeze up when you try to speak, I really want you to know a very important truth right out of the gate. You are not bad at English. Seriously, you just learned it in an environment that honestly didn't prepare you for the real world. Think about it. We spend years studying English in this highly controlled, quiet way, and then we just expect our brains to instantly adapt to the messy, fast-paced reality of actual human conversation. It doesn't work like that. The absolute core of the problem here is the difference between two completely different states of mind. On one side, we have writing mode. Now, in writing mode, you've got all the time in the world, right? You can analyze sentence structures, check your grammar, actually you can obsess over your grammar, and carefully construct your thoughts. But the other side is speaking mode. Speaking demands instant reaction. It's pure improvisation. There is absolutely no time to consciously recall a grammar rule before opening your mouth. If you try to drag those slow, writing mode rules into speaking mode, your brain is going to crash.
So, here's our 4-step roadmap to get you out of that writing mode today. First, we'll look deeper at writing versus speaking mode. Then, Step 1, only English. Step 2, chunks and collocations. Step 3, accept mistakes. And finally, Step 4, speak in reality. Let's get right to it.
Section 1, Writing versus Speaking Mode. To really understand why the perfect grammar you spent years studying in textbooks often feels completely useless out there in the real world, we need to look at a concept in sociolinguistics called register. Now, a register is essentially just a variety of language used for a specific purpose or situation. The formal written English in your textbook and the casual spoken English you hear people using on the street, they are basically two entirely different registers of the exact same language. So many learners get frustrated simply because they're trying to force a formal written register into a casual spoken situation.
And this brilliantly illustrates that disconnect. Look at the textbook side. Hello, how are you today? I am fine, thank you, and you? It's technically perfect, but let's be real, nobody actually speaks like a rigid robot out there. Real English sounds way more like, hey, what's up? Or not much. Textbooks live in this perfectly clean, stress-free bubble. But real English? It's fast, it's emotional, and it is definitely not perfect.
All right, moving on to Section 2. Step 1, only in English.
If you genuinely want to speak fluently, you absolutely have to eliminate the middleman. And that middleman, it's your mother tongue. When you think in your native language, translate it into English in your head, run a quick grammar check, and then finally speak, your brain is doing way too much work. It slows you down and causes that dreaded freeze. You've got to start thinking directly in English. A fantastic way to force this new habit is to literally ditch your bilingual dictionary. Start strictly using an English-to-English dictionary. It's a total game changer.
Section 3, Step 2, Chunks and Collocations.
Now this step is all about changing what you study so you can actually keep pace with native speakers. Ever wonder why native speakers sound impossibly fast? It's not because they possess super speed vocal cords, it's because of something called connected speech. This is when speakers naturally join, reduce, or even completely drop sounds between words to make things flow smoother. So, what are you doing naturally squishes all the way down into what you're doing. If you only ever study isolated words in a book, connected speech is going to sound like a totally alien language.
Now, what's really interesting here is seeing this transformation in action. Book English says, I am going to, but real English says, I'm gonna, or honestly even just Emma. Book English politely asks, do you want to? While real English just throws out, wanna. And instead of saying, I am experiencing fatigue, which sounds totally unnatural, a native speaker will just flop onto the couch and say, I'm beat. Native speakers naturally shrink those rigid, formal rules into these fast, manageable chunks.
Because of this, you need to start using a lexical approach. Basically, stop agonizing over isolated words and start learning collocations and idioms, these ready-made chunks of language. We're talking about everyday phrases like make a decision, spill the tea, or no biggie. The absolute beauty of these chunks is that the grammar is already baked right in. You don't have to stress about verb conjugation or getting the word order right. You just deploy the entire phrase instantly. It saves you so much precious time when you're improvising on the spot.
Section 4, Step 3, Accept mistakes.
I know. This is often the hardest step psychologically. We are so deeply afraid of sounding foolish or making a mistake. But I want to share some data with you that should completely change how you view those mistakes. Linguist Alex Gilmore compared textbook dialogues against real, recorded, authentic conversations. Check out the use of hesitation devices. Words like and In the textbook dialogues, only 8 instances. But in real life, 54.3. Native speakers hesitate constantly. It is entirely 100% normal to pause and make thinking noises.
And even more shocking is this number, 0. That is the exact number of false starts found in those textbook dialogues, compared to 6.5 in real conversations. A false start is simply when you start a sentence, mess it up, stop, and start over. Textbooks completely scrub these out, and by removing them, they create this entirely unrealistic, unattainable standard of perfection. No wonder learners feel like failures when they inevitably stumble in a real conversation.
So, the crucial point is this. Messy communication is real communication. Messy grammar, throwing in an stopping mid-sentence to correct yourself, these are absolutely not signs of failure. They are the natural hallmarks of authentic human interaction. Even an awkward silence isn't some huge disaster. It literally just means your brain is thinking. You've got to accept where you are right now and stop beating yourself up for not sounding like a perfectly polished audio CD.
Which brings us to Section 5, Step 4, Speak in Reality.
Now that you've dropped all that heavy baggage of perfectionism, it is time to actually use the language out in the real world. And when you do get out there, keep in mind that you don't need highly intellectual, wildly complex language. If you're lost, walking up to someone and saying, "I request assistance," makes you sound like a robot. What you actually need is simple, honest survival English. Just saying, "Can you help me?" Survival English is what really allows you to connect with others on topics you actually enjoy, completely free from the pressure of sounding like a university professor.
In the language teaching world, there's this really fascinating concept called dogma ELT, and it focuses on what's known as emergent language. This is the idea that the absolute best, most useful vocabulary you will ever learn doesn't come from some predetermined chapter in a textbook. It emerges naturally during a real interaction. Think about it. When you're struggling to explain something to a friend and they finally help you find that exact word, your brain remembers that word forever, right? That's because it's suddenly tied to a real emotion and a real immediate need.
Let's move to and see how this builds perfectly into our core philosophy for this explainer. Problems teach better than books. English is not a test, it is a tool. Textbooks can hand you information, sure, but real-world problems, they give you experience. And experience is what actually sticks in your memory. We have to stop looking at English as this terrifying exam we need to pass and start looking at it for what it really is, a tool we use to build human connections.
I'm going to leave you today with this final, provocative question to think about. What is the main purpose of language anyway? Is it to be flawlessly grammatically perfect? Or is it to successfully communicate a thought, a feeling, or a need to another human being? Once you realize that connection matters so much more than perfection, you'll finally be able to switch out of writing mode and start speaking in reality. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Now go get out there and start talking.